All right, we back again for part four. Let's keep moving with these judgments. So judicial authority. We're gonna start looking at these elders in scripture from the patriarchs to the Mashiach. Judgments, part four. In this segment, we're gonna look at these elders and so we can just keep getting a better understanding of these judgments. Because by now we should understand exactly what the judgments mean and why they're necessary. So now we're gonna see what the job of the elders were dealing with the judgments of Yahuwah. We're going to see how they came about, and we're going to see how they diminished, and how they're going to regather themselves by the Mashiach, or because of Hamashiach, what he did. And it's amazing because everything Hamashiach does, he's all over this book. And everything he does, he just really just mends puts everything back together. All we got to do is reach out there and take it. So let's keep rolling. Praise Yah. So let's look at these patriarchs. Genesis 18, Abraham judges Sodom. Genesis 31, Jacob resolves dispute. Tribal heads, family judges, covenant mediators. Cloaks of covenant favor, like especially looking at Joseph, how Joseph, even when he was in Egypt, right? His main thing was, I can't sin against Yahuwah. So we're going to keep moving a little bit. Let's look at these elders. Exodus 3 and 16, Numbers 11 and 16 through 17, Deuteronomy 21. We're going to see some of these scriptures. Local judges, witnesses, spiritual leaders, gatekeepers, and garments of wisdom and communal authority is what they had on themselves. And we're going to show you how they did that. So the show team delivers judgments, right? The deliverer judges. Book of Judges, Deborah, Gideon, Samson, etc. Charismatic leaders raised by Yahuwah during crisis, right? When the punishments that he threw on them was getting so bad, or the people that had them under their foot. Garment of valor and prophetic fire. So, Sanhedrin elders in New Testament, Luke 22, 66, Acts 4, 5 through 7. Institutionalized leaders, elder judges, often corrupted by power. We know by this time Esau had fully infiltrated the Sanhedrin. We know this, right? And with the help of that crazy man, Antipater's people, Herod. Right? Counterfeit robes of authority is what they wore, contrast with Mashiach. Mashiach as final judge, John 5 and 22, Revelation 19 and 11, Matthew 25 and 31. So, righteous judge, king, high priest executes final justice. Robe dipped in blood, white linen of righteousness. Right? All these symbolic things. And as soon as it was day, the elders of the people and the chief priests and the scribes came together and led him into their council, saying, Art thou the Christ? Tell us. And he said unto them, If I tell you, you will not believe. Why couldn't they believe? Because they had no light. They refused to come into the light, and they had no ruach. And we're going to show you this was necessary. It's always necessary in leadership. Let's keep moving. So elders were the first formal judges appointed to carry the weight of justice and discernment. Judges, the show team, right, were raised in moments of national crisis, prophetic and military leaders. Mashiach fulfills and surpasses all. He judges in righteousness, clothes in garments of awe and glory. Elders seated, contemplative, scroll bearing, gatekeepers of justice. Appointed justice, Moses-like figures, delegated authority, Torah enforcement. Like if you ever been over to the Middle East, what they call the Middle East anyway, you'll see even this is where Islam got this from. You know, because you have the police the Quran police that walk around and they make sure that you wearing what you're supposed to be wearing, your face is covered, whatever. That's their job. So this is kind of the same thing as This is what the elders was doing. The Shotim, Deborah style deliverers, prophetic fire and crisis leadership. Right? Messiah, robe dipped in blood, scales of justice, final judge and king priest. Okay. I know I'm saying this thing over and over sometimes, but y'all know why I do that. If you come up here all the time with me, I do that so you get it in your mind. Same way they told you that the Jewish people was the people, right? And they told you this over and over. They took the ruach of Yahuwah to give you the information so you finally can understand who is and who's not. So let's see. Let's look at this. Where did the elders come from? Patriarchal roots is in Genesis. Genesis 50 and 7. All the elders of Egypt accompanied Joseph. Shows that elderhood was already a recognized leadership structure. Implied in tribal life, elders were heads of families and clans, those with wisdom, age, and authority. So that's what an elder's supposed to be. Someone with wisdom, and he's in other words, a elderly person with wisdom and authority. All right, let's get to it. So, number two, elders of Israel, Exodus 3, 16, 12, and 21. Exodus 3 and 16, Yahuwah tells Moshe, go and gather the elders of Israel. Exodus 12 and 21, Moshe instructs the elders to lead the Passover preparation. So we can see they had that leadership role. Insight, elders were already functioning as representatives of the people. They were the first to hear Yahuwah's plan of deliverance. Because remember, well, we're going to see that. So, number three, judicial role. Deuteronomy 19, 11 through 13, and 21 and 12. Elders were responsible for investigating crimes. Let's look at that. But if any man hate his neighbor and lie in wait for him, rise up against him and smite him mortally, that he die, and fleeth into one of these cities, right? The cities of refuge. We looked at that in part 3. Then the elders of his city shall send and fetch him thence, and deliver him into the hand of the avenger of blood, that he may die. Thine eye shall not pity him, but thou shalt put away the guilt of innocent blood from Israel, that it may go well with these. And it's a lot of them. See, and we're going to say put away the guilt of innocent blood. We're going to see what this means here. So the one who committed this crime had to be delivered him into the hands of the avenger of blood, right? Goel or Gohal Hadam, right? Strong's H1350, Gaal, to redeem, avenge, act as kinsman. To redeem, act as kinsman redeemer, avenge, revenge, ransom to the part of kinsman, right? Because we see that the Mashiach was a ransom for his kinsmen too as well. To act as kinsman, do the part of next of kin, act as kinsman redeemer, right? We know we know in Jeremiah, when everything with Babylon had did all that they did, right? He was able to redeem land back for his cousin. Let's keep moving. But Yah gave that to him because of his faithfulness. Now let's keep rolling. So, human kinsman, redeemer. In the plain sense, the Gael was a close relative of the slain person. He had the legal right to avenge bloodshed, but only if the act was murder, not manslaughter, right? Because we're going to see later on that this is where they get the tape and the chalk around the body. All this came from Israel. Let's keep moving. This was not vigilante justice, it was covenant justice overseen by the elders. So in Deuteronomy, the avenger is a human, but he stands in the shadow of Yahweh's justice. The elders deliver the guilty not just to a man, but to the covenant consequences that flow from Yahuwah's throne. Right? Because he told you what we should do and what we should not do. Right? That's why we got the covenant commandments. Let's keep moving. Murder in ancient Israel was punished by death, usually by stoning, and never redeemable by ransom. So you killed somebody, could nobody do nothing for you. Deuteronomy 21, 22 through 23. If a man has committed a sin deserving death, and he is put to death, and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain overnight on a tree, for he who is hanged is accursed of Elohim. Key insight: the hanging was a symbolic curse, not the execution itself. So, in other words, hey, this person would get stoned, right, for whatever vicious, evil thing that deserved death, and then his body was hung to be put out on display. It was like a warning. It was showing that this man was cursed. Why? Because he broke the commandments. Because we got something we're gonna put together on that. See, because not knowing, the Pharisees even said this to Mashiach. Remember, they said these people is cursed because they don't know the law. So when you don't understand the commandments and you're not keeping the commandments, the covenant commandments, you call it law, commandments, whatever. The point is, you are already cursed. But the key was, we said, so people say, well, why remove it before the sunset? To avoid defiling the land. The curse must not linger. So this is why, even though Mashiach became a curse for us, you see, what did he do? We all had committed everything in our lives that deserved death, but he didn't. But this is why they rushed to take him down off the tree before the sun went down. See, but then when we look at our history, how we was hung and they left us there, and we see the outcome of that in America right now. We see this. You understand? Let's keep moving. So, two, shadow of Yahuwah's justice. Huh? The Gael was a proxy, a human agent of divine justice. In some cases, especially in prophetic layers, the avenger is Yahuwah himself. Isaiah 63 and 4, the day of vengeance is in my heart. Right? Psalms 94 and 1, O Yahuwah, sovereign of vengeance, shine forth. Right? So we know that in the case of HaMashiach, as this was the Father's, was the avenger. If that makes sense to you. Should by now. All right, let's keep moving. All right, he asked the Father to take this cup from him if it was possible, but then he came to his senses. Nevertheless, your will shall be done. Number three, death angel or death messenger as avenger. We've seen this before. The death messenger, Exodus 12:23, uh, and 22. I guess that's, I don't know how I did that. Samuel 24:16 is a messenger of Yahuwah's judgment, not typically the Gael. But in ultimate justice, Yahuwah can send his messenger to execute vengeance, especially when human justice fails. So we've seen this a few times. He sent a messenger to take revenge on Sennacherib, right? We've seen this before when David had sinned, right? The messenger came and tore up the coast and did all these other things, right? So again, let's keep it moving. Just so I just put that there so you can get an understanding of, kind of give you different scenarios. 2 Samuel 24 and 15. So Yahuwah sent a pestilence upon Israel from the morning even to the time appointed. There died of the people from Dan even to Beersheba 70,000 men. And when the messenger stretched out his hand upon Jerusalem to destroy it, Yahuwah repented him of the evil and said to the messenger that destroyed the people, it is enough. Stay now thine hand. And the messenger of Yahuwah was by the threshing place of Arunah, the Jebusite. And David spake unto Yahuwah when he saw the messenger that smote the people, and said, Lo, I have sinned, and I have done wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let thine hand, I pray thee, be against me and against my father's house. Because David was that type of a king, right? He wasn't a coward. And he understood what he had did. And then y'all told him I told him to make a choice. Deuteronomy 19 through 21 chapter. Elders as legal authorities. Elders investigate, oversee justice, and enact judgments. Deuteronomy 21 and 2, your elders and judges shall come forth. Insight, elders function as local judges, especially in tribal and city contexts. Continue, administrating justice. overseeing ritual and legal matters, right? Because we saw that the rituals, right? Because they had to show the people how to do the Passover, and then you had the legal matters and Deuteronomy 21 and 2. Elders and judges measured distance to determine responsibility in unsolved murder cases. So this just didn't happen with Columbo, one of these cop shows. This has been going on for a while. Because remember, you had elders in these different cities of sanctuary. So this is how they would figure out, by how close the city was, what elder was responsible for this. We're gonna let's keep moving so you can really get an understanding of this. Now, if one be found slain in the land, which Yahweh thy Elohim giveth thee to possess it, lying in the field, and it be not known who hath slain him. Then thy elders and thy judges shall come forth, and they shall measure unto the cities which are round about him that is slain. And it shall be that the city which is next unto the slain man, even the elders of that city shall take a heifer which have not been wrought with, and which have not drawn in a yoke, and the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer into a rough valley, which is neither aired nor sown, and shall strike off the heifer's neck there in the valley. And the priests and the sons of Levi shall come near, for them Yahweh thy Elohim have chosen to minister unto him, and to bless in the name of Yahweh, and by their word shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. See that? And by their word shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. And all the elders of that city that are next unto the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. And they shall answer and say, our hands have not shed this blood, neither have our eyes seen it. Be merciful, O sovereign, unto thy people Israel, whom thou hast redeemed, and laid not innocent blood into thy people of Israel's charge. And the blood shall be forgiven them. So shalt thou put away the guilt of innocent blood from among you, right? When thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of Yahweh. So each of these elders was Yah's holding them as the gatekeepers responsible for what happens, what goes on in their city of refuge. But this way, guess what? The blood was taken off of them because they're responsible for that city. You see? This is how deep this elder thing goes. I mean, wow. Yeah. So being an elder it's tough. And it's something that, like I say, being an elder is something else. And a lot of people don't understand that. But we are supposed to be the gatekeepers. We're supposed to guide and lead you along. Of course, you have the ruach, right? But we're supposed to, when you have something you can't figure out, you're supposed to come to the elder. And by you watching us and we living like we're supposed to be and talking like we're supposed to be talking and walking that way, that gives you confidence. So, but we're responsible for whoever is under our charge. So sometimes you might have an elder get a little mad, or he might say something you can't get in your feelings because he's trying to tell you what's right, whether you want to hear it or not. Our hands have not shed this blood, neither have our eyes seen it. Let's keep it moving. Even though they didn't commit the murder, they are responsible for justice within their gates. Mhm. I'm one of them elders. Like I don't like a lot of foolishness. It gets me upset because especially when we've been walking in this thing together for years. We supposed small stuff is never supposed to happen. We never supposed to be dishonest or deceitful. Let's keep it moving. What many within a congregation often fail to realize is that the elders bear full responsibility for everything they teach. See, a lot of people don't understand this. All right. It is their duty to lead and guide accurately according to the Torah, directing others along the narrow path while also ensuring they remain free from blood guilt. For this reason, any and all confusion must be addressed promptly. Hebrews 13 and 17. Obey them that have rule over you and submit yourself, for they watch for your souls as they that must give account. Man, let's keep moving. These teachers, man, being a teacher or an elder, like the people I know that we deal with in our class, they know I never wanted to do this because I know the consequences. but I end up doing it anyway. Greek layer. Watch, right? The Strong's number G69. A group penio, meaning to stay awake, be vigilant, keep watch, because that's our job. We're supposed to watch. Souls, right? The psyche, Strong's number 5590 is Greek, meaning life, breath, inner being. This isn't casual oversight, it's spiritual vigilance, like a night watchman guarding the gates of the soul. The elders are accountable to Yahuwah for how they shepherd, protect, and discern. They carry the weight of the souls. So this is like I say, sometimes the elder might flip out a little bit. It's because of the fact that, again, I'm responsible for whoever Yahoo has put in my care. I can't have favoritism. I can't, everything has to be done because by the book, because guess what? It's going to be on me. It's on the elder. Let's keep it moving. Elders as the first judges, scriptural trail. Exodus 18:13 through 26. Moses overwhelmed. Problem Moses alone was judging all disputes. Solution Jethro advised him to appoint capable men to judge smaller matters. The capable men is what we want to understand. Result a tiered system of judges, elders, and leaders who handled daily cases. In sight, this marks the formal beginning of judicial delegation in Israel. All right, because we know the elders was already involved way back with Joseph, right? But as time went on, Moses couldn't handle all, because you know how dealing with Israel can be sometimes. So Yah spoke through Jethro and said, "Look, man, you need to set this up to take some of these problems off you." Strong's Concordance H 2428. Kanyil, right? Core meaning strength, valor, wealth, army, capability. Used for warriors, noble women, mighty men, virtuous character, right? We see that with Deborah, gleaning insight, right? Hanyel isn't just physical strength, it's moral fortitude, spiritual discernment, and covenant reliability. So, as elders, we have to be physically strong and spiritually strong, have moral fortitude because we understand the covenant commandments, have the ruach that helps us have spiritual discernment in different matters, and be reliable to keep the covenant. That's a lot. These men weren't chosen for charisma. They were chosen because of their integrity. Again, I mean, they could have physical strength. That's good. But they had to have what? That spiritual strength, moral fortitude, spiritual discernment, and covenant reliability. So the Brown drivers and Briggs, strength, efficiency, wealth, army, excellence. Often used poetically for mighty acts or noble character. Give me some examples. Proverbs 31:10, a woman of Kael, virtuous, noble. All right. First Chronicles 7:5, men of Kael fit the war. They're fit for war. Right? Kael is a covenant composite, strength plus virtue plus readiness. These men were watchers, judges, and servants, not just leaders, but guardians of the people's soul. So, strength able to bear burdens, judge wisely, and stand in crisis. Be full of virtue and fear, Yahuwah. They must have discernment and be able to judge between matters and guard the gate. Must have accountability and give account for the souls in his city. And even with all these attributes, he must be Ruach filled, because there's no way he could do all these things anyway. Right? So we got to have that fire. Exodus 18:20, when moreover thou shalt provide out of the people able men, such as fear Yahuwah, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them, to be rulers of thousands, and rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50, and rulers of tens. And let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So shall it be easier for thyself, Moshe, and they shall bear the burden with thee. So he had help. So the New Testament understood the meaning of capable men. James 3 and 1. Not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. The things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of these least of these commands and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. Right? Why? Because guess what? He's not. It can't be capable. If somebody, you got a pastor that's not teaching you these commandments, evidently he is not capable. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven, which we know is going to be on this earth. So they have to be qualified, not ordained by some college, not ordained by some deacons. They have to teach this. They got to teach these commandments. That's it. That's there. I mean, and all of us actually. I mean, we are supposed to be able to be teaching this thing to somebody, but we supposed to be gathering the lost sheep. Let's keep it moving. So Exodus 24, 1 through 11. Elders ascend to meet Yahuwah. Come up to Yahuwah, you and Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 other elders of Israel. They saw Elohim, verse 10, a rare visible manifestation in a form accessible to the human perception, because we know that no man can actually see Yahuwah and live. Right? Insight, these elders didn't just represent the people, they stood in sacred proximity, bearing covenant responsibility. Strong's 2205, Zakim, elder, old man, but also leader, judge, and a gatekeeper. So, gleaning. This wasn't just a meal, it was a covenant ratification. In ancient Near Eastern culture, eating in the presence of a king sealed loyalty and trust, because we know this is what happened when they went up on the mountain, that they had a covenant confirming meal to put everything together. In other words, this is how they ratified everything, because that was it. In ancient Near Eastern culture, eating in the presence of a king sealed loyalty and trust. Here the elders behold Elohim and share a meal, a shadow picture of the future table fellowship with Hamashiach. This signified divine acceptance. No hand was placed on them, and Yahweh appeared in a form the human mind could handle. Okay? So they saw him and they ate with him because it was a wedding. It was a wedding feast. Exodus 24, 1 through 2. That's what we waiting on. Only Moshe can go to the top in Yahuwah's presence. He's the only one. Remember, the elders they stopped at the bottom of the mountain. We know that Aaron and his sons went in the middle of the mountain, and we know Moshe went to the very top and was in the presence of Yahuwah. Yahuwah said to Moshe, "Come up to Yahuwah, you and Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 other elders. But Moses alone shall come near Yahuwah. The others shall not come near." So we see that the elders couldn't come near him, and we see Aaron and his sons could not come any further as well. Moses had already encountered Yahweh in the burning bush in Exodus chapter 3, spoken face to face, Exodus 33 and 11, and carried the Spirit for leadership. He was Ruach filled. Moses was a chosen intercessor, the one who would receive Torah directly. The top of the mount was not just elevation, it was proximity to holiness, set apartness. Only one could stand in that fire and live. He had to be set apart. Only those sanctified and spirit filled can approach the consuming fire. That's telling you that in Hebrews 12 and 29. So again, we're seeing again the New Testament verifying the Old Testament. I mean, so we do that a lot around here. Yahweh sets boundaries. Proximity requires purity, trembling, and calling. The elders, though, invited to ascend part way, were not yet filled with the Ruach for judgment that comes in Numbers 11 and 25. They were witnesses, not mediators, because you got to have people at the wedding. That's what the first part of that. They're a witness that you took your vows. Moses shows a shadow picture of Mashiach, the only one who ascends fully, then brings the word down to the people. So, no one has ever gone into heaven except the one who came from heaven, the Son of Man, who has ascended to the heaven and come down, who has gathered the wind in his hands, who has bound up the waters in a cloak, who has established all the ends of the earth. What is his name and what is the name of his son? Surely you know. So we have the Father and we have the Son involved here. Well, again, we see that the shadow picture of Mashiach from Moshe when he was going up to the top and coming back down and the people giving the people the word. We know only one has done that, and that was Hamashiach that came from the Shamayim directly to the earth. We just got to know, have some understanding. Even Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, though priests, were not permitted to draw near. Later, Nadab and Abihu's unauthorized fire in Leviticus chapter 10 shows they misunderstood proximity. Aaron and his sons, still ordinary men, not yet sanctified for priestly service. The garments of glory and beauty in Exodus 28 hadn't been made or worn. The oil of consecration in Exodus 30 and 30 hadn't been applied. They weren't set apart by Ruach yet. Without the tabernacle, there was no priestly system, only Moses as mediator and the young men that was doing the sacrifices at that time. Right? Until the golden calf. That's what killed that. Spiritual leadership, Numbers 11, 16 through 17. Yahuwah tells Moshe to appoint 70 elders to share the burden of leadership. Spirit rests on them, they prophesy, and elders are not just administrators, they're vessels of divine wisdom and spirit-led discernment. Numbers 11, 16 through 17, spirit-filled elders. Judicial plus spiritual authority, they weren't just administrators, they were covenant stewards. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, gather me unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be elders of the people and officers over them, and bring them into the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. I will come down and talk with thee there. I will take of the spirit which is upon thee, and will put it upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with thee, that thou bear it not thyself alone. Y'all see that? So the Ruach, the breath, spirit, the wind, and Eden, Genesis 2 and 7, breath of life into Adam, Ruach initiates covenant life. The flood, Genesis 6 and 3, my spirit shall not always strive with man. Ruach withdraws from corruption. Moses and the elders, Numbers 11 and 17, spirit shared for judgment. Ruach empowers discernment. Prophets, Isaiah 11 and 2, Ezekiel chapter 37, spirit of wisdom and resurrection. Ruach restores dry bones and judges righteously. All right. Mashiach, right? Luke 4 and 18, the spirit of Yahuwah is upon me. Ruach anoints for healing, liberty, and judgment. Pentecost, Acts chapter 2, tongues of fire. Ruach poured out to restore covenant community. All right, Revelation 22 and 17, the spirit and the bride say, come. Final invitation, Ruach calls to the gates of eternity. Yeah, y'all put this thing together. This is, I'll tell you what, it's so sweet. So Numbers 11, 16 through 17. Ruach rested on the elders. I will take of the spirit that is upon you and will put it upon them. Strong's number 7307. The spirit, the breath, wind used here for divine empowerment. Brown Driver's Brig Insight often denotes prophetic inspiration, judicial discernment, and divine presence. The elders was not just helpers, they were spirit bearers, sharers, Moses' burden and sharing Moses' burden and authority. So Deuteronomy 19 and 70, elders as judicial representatives. Then both the men shall stand before Yahuwah, before the priests and the judges. Standing before Yahuwah equals standing before his appointed judgment and priests. Insight, judicial proceedings were sacred. Elders didn't just decide, they discerned in Yahuwah's name. Right? City of refuge. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity, or for any sin, and any sin that is sinneth. At the mouth of two witnesses, or at the mouth of three witnesses, shall the matter be established. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before Yahuwah, before the priests and the judges which shall be in those days. And the judges shall make diligent inquisition. Behold, if the witness be a false witness, and have testified falsely against his brother, then shall ye do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you. And those which remain shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you. And thine eye shall not pity, but life shall go for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and hand for hand, and foot for foot. So Strong's number 3068, Yahweh. Definition: the self-existing one. The proper name of Yahuwah of Israel, 6,500 times mentioned in Torah, right? But that's why they don't want you to say that name. Not typically translated as spirit, but in certain contexts, the Ruach is described as being of Yahuwah, and thus carries his name and authority. Ruach, Yahweh, in Scripture. And the spirit of Yahuwah shall rest upon him. Right. This pairing shows that the spirit is not separate from Yahuwah. It is his manifest presence, wisdom, and power. So while Strong's 3068 is not a direct translation of spirit, it is used in compound phrases like Ruach Yahuwah, where the spirit is identified with Yahuwah himself, not just as a power, but as the one who speaks, judges, comforts, and indwells. The elders at the gate in the cities of refuge weren't just legal officials. They were spirit-empowered gatekeepers of mercy and justice, standing in for Yahuwah himself. City of refuge and elders at the gate, Joshua 20 and 4. He shall stand at the entrance of the gate of the city and declare his case in the ears of the elders of that city. All right, after he did, like I said, remember last week we talked about that. The gate was a place of judgment, discernment, and covenant decision. So you got to remember, me and this other elder out here in the field, we doing some work. So I reached the axe back, the handle flies off and hit the other elder in the head. He fall out dead. Now, here come his family. They want vengeance. It was an accident. I got to get to the city of refuge. Now, I'm telling the elders what happened. They looking at me full of the ruach. They can tell if I'm lying or not. Point blank. So that decides whether my life gets spared or not. Let's keep it moving. Because the City of Refuge gave me time for them to do their investigation. And that kept me alive, so that their relatives couldn't get to me. The elders didn't just hear, they discerned by the Ruach whether the accused was guilty of murder or innocent of manslaughter. Ain't nothing changed these days. When the accused stood before them, it was as if they stood before Yahuwah himself, because the elders judged in his name by his spirit. And we have more of that these days. A lot of, with this justice system in this country is off. All right, so the elders as gatekeepers, they stood at the city gates where justice and covenant decisions was made. Elders as spirit bearers, shows they carry the ruach of discernment. Elders as divine witnesses. Exodus 24 reveals they saw Elohim and lived, rare covenant intimacy. Coming before elders equals coming before Yahuwah, because they judge in his name by his spirit and under his authority. Point blank, period. So, the gates, thresholds of judgment and mercy. Let's look at this first one. All right. In Eden, cherubim guarded the gates after Adam and Eve had did what they did. Gates closed due to sin. Their access was denied. They couldn't get back in there. Right? City gates, Deuteronomy 24, Joshua 28:4. Elder judge at the gate as place of justice and refuge. Temple gates, Open to me the gates of righteousness. Enter through covenant obedience. So that's all the only way you're going to get in the kingdom. Mashiach, I am the gate. Access restored through the shepherd. New Jerusalem, 12 gates, never shut. Final restoration gates open to the righteous. Point blank, period. All right. So, elders in the kingdom of Christ, scriptural layers, Revelation 4 and 4. Around the throne were 24 thrones, and seats on the thrones were 24 elders seated, clothed in white garments with golden crowns on their head. These elders are heavenly representatives seated near the throne. They wear white garments, purity, and crowns, authority, echoes of righteousness, judgment, and covenant stewardship. See, so now you see how he put them back together. It's not 70 of them, but guess what? He took 24 of them and he put the title of elder back where it should be. They worship and cast their crowns before the Lamb. Revelation chapter 4. Revelation 5, 8 through 10. The 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each holding a harp and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. So we see another attribute, right? They sing of being redeemed from every tribe and nation. They represent the full covenant body. 1 Peter 5, 1 through 4. When the chief shepherds appear, you will receive the crown of glory that does not fade away. Earthly elders who shepherd faithfully will be rewarded in the kingdom. Their role transitions from oversight to glory, sharing with Mashiach. Whoever therefore shall break one of these least commands and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So, Brown, Drivers, Briggs, and Lexicon Breakdown. Commandments, right? Strong's number 1785. Greek term used in the New Testament, but rooted in Hebrew, right? Mitzvah, command, ordinance, precept, often used for covenant instruction given by Yahuwah, not just legalism, relational loyalty to the covenant. Teach, right? Greek 1321, to instruct, impart, doctrine, explain meaning. Right? Like that's what I'm up here trying to do now for my class. In Hebrew, this echoes what? To train, right? To be a disciple. So that's what our job is supposed to be, trying to train you, right? Lemed, to be the disciples of Mashiach. BWB, Brown Drivers Brig Insight. Teaching is not just information, it's formation. To teach commandments is to pass on covenant fidelity. Because again, if we in the army of the Father, guess what? And we supposed to be the first sergeant or whatever. They try to show you how everything goes. When you don't understand your weapons of warfare, we supposed to be able to explain to you what they are and how they're supposed to be used. All right. Oh, yeah, I didn't think this could be put into a class about no elders, huh? Great. Greek number 3173. Large, mighty, honored, weighty. Gadol. Gadol. Great in size, importance, honor. In Hebrew, this parallels Gadol. Right? So the insight is used for Yahuwah's name, his deeds, and his servants. So guess what? If we can make it as elders and teach this thing and walk and do the right thing at the same time, oh my goodness. That's why I want to be. I really want to be walking through the kingdom with flames. I just want to stand there and be on fire. When I walk, you can see the flames come off me. How did the elders disappear? Isaiah 3, 14 through 15. Yahuwah will enter to judgment with the elders. You have devoured the vineyard. Elders became oppressors, not protectors. Their garments of discernment were stained with injustice. Rise of counterfeit leadership, right? Because we see how the Edomites took over the Sanhedrin. Saul's kingship replaced elder-led discernment with centralized monarchy. Because guess what? Now elders was tripping. Now here come here come the king, which we know Saul was messed up too. Sanhedrin and Yahuwah's day, elders became political pawns, losing spiritual clarity. See the same thing you see in our communities right now with these Al Sharpton and Martin Luther King and all these other clowns that be out here pretending like they care about you. They getting paid to keep you quiet because that was a tradition, a Masonic tradition, ever since they started letting you have church. Have over first the slave masters used to sit in there and watch and make sure that whoever was teaching didn't say the wrong thing. And later on, they gave you these pastors like you got running around here now telling you that you ain't got to do nothing that Yahuwah says. And you cursed and don't even know it. Wow, keeping you under the curse. We're going to show you that. So, loss of the Ruach and corruption. Elders plotted evil. Yahuwah removed his spirit. Ezekiel 11, 1 through 13. Without the Ruach, they became hollow vessels, elders in name only. No Ruach equals no discernment, no true judgment. Kings and priests usurped elder authority. Babylonian exile dismantled tribal structures. Eldership faded as Torah-centered community life collapsed. Because everybody was Babylonian then, like we always do wherever we captivate. We be just like our captors. Prophets mourn the loss of gatekeepers and judges. Lamentations 2, 10 through 11. The elders of daughters of Zion sit upon the ground and keep silence. They have cast up dust upon their heads. Mine eyes do fail with tears, because the children and the suckling swoon in the streets of the city. They ain't got no guidance. Jeremiah mourns the collapse of leadership. Elders who once sat in honor now sit in dust and silence. The prophet's tears are for the spiritual desolation and loss of covenant order. Elders once honored is now disgraced. Ezekiel 9 and 6, judgment begins at the elders. Slay utterly old and young, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Who's going to be the first one to get it? Then they begin at the ancient men, which were before the house. So again, we can still see the elders as being held accountable first. Ezekiel sees judgment begin with the elders, those who were supposed to guard the sanctuary. Their failure to uphold covenant brings divine grief and wrath, all because of disobedience to cover. The elders failed to guard holiness. Joel 1, 13 through 14, call the elders to mourning. Gird yourself and lament, you priests. Howl, you ministers of the altar. Gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land to the house of Yahuwah your Elohim, and cry unto Yahuwah. Joel calls the elders to repentance and mourning. They are not exempt. Their leadership must be restored through trembling and fast. Elders must lead in lamentation. So, restoration of Mashiach. Acts 14, Paul appoints elders in every assembly, restoring the pattern. Right? We saw that. In Revelation, elders surround the throne, redeemed, crowned, spirit-filled. Messiah doesn't erase leadership. He purifies and enthrones it. Elders didn't vanish. They were buried under corruption and exile. Messiah restores true eldership, not through power, but through purity, spirit, and covenant loyalty. In the kingdom, elders are enthroned, robed, and filled with Ruach, no longer gatekeepers of cities, but guardians of glory. Ain't that something? Elevated. So, as elders and teachers, it is our duty not only to convey the truth, everlasting gospel to our congregation, but also to embody it in every aspect of our lives. We must recognize that more than ever, many eyes are observing our actions while attempting to influence our thoughts. Therefore, we need HaMashiach and the Ruach to guide us, support us, and provide the wisdom necessary to lead both ourselves and others. While it is natural to feel frustration toward foolishness, we must remember that we too were once beginners. Compassion remains an essential quality of effective leadership, balanced with firmness. The key lies in discerning when and how to apply these traits appropriately, a skill developed through discipline and experience in our spiritual journey. So with that being said, thanks for watching and for your time. Next time we get together, then we're gonna both start looking at the judges. And that's gonna be in Judgments, part 5. All right, y'all. Thank you for coming up, everyone. So at this time, we're just gonna say shalom, shalom.